Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Grateful Not Greedy podcast. My name is Kris, and I am here with my lovely co-host, and her name is
Rachel. Good morning, everybody.
I should have said my very decisive and on the money co-host.
I know, and here I am saying good morning, and nowhere else is it morning anymore.
Exactly. So I'm really happy to be here with you today, Rach, because in the light of everything that I have going on in my life, one of the things that's coming up is something I'm dealing with. I know you're dealing with it, and it's the urgency culture and making decisions. And I was thinking that we should really urgently talk about this, Rachel.
I feel a little
We need to talk
urgency on
about this right now. This is so important.
We got to get this done.
Honestly, like I think, among me and all my friends, I think we all are feeling this urgency culture. I even did it yesterday, in cleaning my house. I was thinking like, because my house is kind of always a state of some degree of mess because I just have a lot of people coming through a small amount of space. But even that, I was like, okay, I've got to get this stuff done. And I just kind of paused and I was like, really? Do I have to get that stuff done? I missed a hike with my son because I was like, oh, I need to do this. I need to take care of this. I need to take care of that. And yeah. So let's talk about it. Urgency culture, making decisions, and the conflation of those two, which I think is really, really difficult because there's a lot of, I feel, pressure to make a decision so that you can keep things moving along, and so things can go. It's just a quick example. We had to buy a car. We have to. Yes, we literally have to. We live in Southern California, so we needed to buy a car this past week, and we went to buy it, or we went to go look, and then we found one that wasn't at all what we were anticipating we would be purchasing in the state of a car. It's like if you're going to get a house and you're like looking at 100 square foot house, and you're like, we were actually just looking for a 1,600 square foot apartment. It's just something like that, disparate. You're like, this is not exactly what we were looking for. In the opposite direction, it was a really small car. But we ended up not getting that car and thinking we were going to go look at other things. And then we, came back to it, and it's just kind of this whole thing. And it was urgency, and then indecisiveness, and then more urgency, and then indecisiveness. And I got to say, God bless my husband in that situation, because he's surgical precision. So I was like, hey, can you kind of take over the management of this decision making process? Because I know that I'm going to get in the way of myself, and I'm going to get in the way of my daughter. We all need to move this forward, right? So yeah, lay it on me. What do you got?
Yeah, well, it's like, first, I just remember this. A friend said to me, in the morning when you wake up, don't ask yourself, what do you need to get done today? Ask yourself, how do you feel today? And he's like, that will help start shifting that urgency versus versus actually like living your day. And, it is challenging because we do live in a place that we have, like, we make decisions, like you get an email, a text, a phone call, and we respond right away because we're like, oh, that's what we do. And it's like, do we really need to respond right away? And I
No.
am sitting in a situation, and not just like the urgency culture for me, but how am I exposing my son to that?
Yeah.
And for him, he's, a junior. He's a wrestler, and he wants to look at schools that allow him to continue to wrestle. And, part of it is we want to go look at some over spring break. Great. And now we have to start making decisions. And I want him to start making those
Ah.
choices. But I also don't want to feel.
It almost gives me pang right there, Rach,
Yeah.
just honestly. Yeah.
And and so some of those decisions feel massive for him, and I don't want to push them too hard. But also on the other hand, I'm like, we have to make some choices. He has to make some choices. Like, what does he want? And these are big decisions.
Yes.
And I don't want to
Well,
put too much urgency.
Hold on. Are they, right? Are they? Because,
They
right?
feel big to
They
him
feel
because
big.
they
The
are once he's.
perception that we've given them is big.
Well, and I
Yes.
don't know if it's the perception. I feel like he has never made decisions at this large, like that feel this big for him
Right, but
before.
I would just challenge you even on that, because I'm I'm sitting there and I'm sitting in a conversation right now with just to give you by example, with
Mhm.
my daughter who made a decision about college, which we all thought, literally her, college guy from school, like advisor from school was like, no, I'll bet my whole, situation on this, my whole career on this, that this is the right school for you. And so she goes to that school and guess what? 3 semesters later, she's transferring to another school because that school didn't. So even in the sense where you think that's a really big decision, I guess it is, but they're changeable usually, and they're able to be modified. And okay, keep talking because I have another perspective on this, just on the way we're thinking about this because I'm in this decision making process constantly with with like many kids going to college and doing
Right.
stuff. Yeah,
Well, and to your point, you're right. Like whatever school he ends up at, he doesn't have to stay there. Like it
correct,
doesn't have to be his end all be all. He can
correct.
change.
Yeah, and there's a
He can
lesson through all
yeah,
of it.
there's
Yeah.
a lesson and there's learning and growing through that all. And there's like, I mean, I didn't go to the same school for 4 years. Like that's great, and that was the right step for me. And so that is a really good point. And I should share that with him. That it doesn't
And,
need to
I mean,
feel
I
as
didn't go to
this.
the same school for 4 straight years. I went to school for, 2 years and then took a year off and then went back for another year and a half and finished in 3.5 years. So, you just don't know, right? You
True.
just don't know how it's going to even that, even that, was not a consistent decision. It was like, "Okay, I know I need to be here. I really like the people I'm surrounded with. This school is driving me crazy," which I think is what my daughter was going through. She's just like, "This school just does not, it's like against me," right? Like it's
Mhm.
against me. So there's different ways to skin that cat. I solved it by saying like, "Okay, slow down. I'm going to take a year off. I'm going to work," which is what I wanted to do. But yeah, yeah. So even that, to say that there's urgency around it or there's importance around it, which is another framework we can talk about. Gosh,
Sure.
there's gonna be so much in this conversation, Rach. I mean,
There
it's like,
is.
what time is it in the morning? We haven't even
I
gotten
know.
started.
Well, and it's like, and then when you don't make decisions, like then you're actually making a decision to not make a decision, right? So
Correct.
like there's like
Yes.
that is actually a choice. However, there are timelines and it's the question of like, are these timelines self-imposed or are they real?
Mhm.
Like, are they truly like, is a door gonna close? Is an opportunity gonna close? And what does that mean? And to what I just said, like if not making a choice is actually making a choice, that
It
door
is.
closes, that is a choice.
Yes.
And the other piece of it is like, I know you said that it's not that big of a decision, but he doesn't have experience making decisions in this realm yet, right?
Yes.
And
I
so
I'm
for
not I'm
him,
not saying it's not a decision. I'm just challenging that is it or is it not?
yeah, and
I don't
I
know if
can
it is.
see both sides of this
Mhm.
completely. Like, yes, it's something new and feels large, and on the other hand, it's like, and it can change still. Like nothing's locked in. He still has a year and a half. First off, second off, he can always transfer, and like he knows another student that is wrestling for somewhere and is probably going to transfer for next year, and that's okay.
Oh, yeah, in the
So
sports, that's our transfer portal
yeah,
is
the
constant.
transfer
Yeah.
per yeah, so like that is also mixed in here. So but I am trying to be really mindful to not
Mhm.
put some fake urgency, like some impose
Mhm.
and create the idea of scarcity and fear in this choice.
Mhm.
But I also want to give him the tools to make that decision. And where's the balance of like a deadline versus just
Mhm.
go with it, Like where is
Mhm.
that balance here?
So yeah, Rach, I mean, honestly, so what is your plan? And that really is to say, what is your plan? Not to hijack the whole decision making process from him, but in the same light, be able to allow him the freedom to make a decision, the freedom to make a true decision, even if it's not the decision you want or it's incorrect or, whatever else you've got going on.
Yeah, so here's the thing. I don't want to ever look at this one as there's not the right decision because whatever decision he makes is right for him at that moment, right? Like I can't be in his head. I don't know what it's like to be a wrestler. I don't know what it's like to live the life he does. Like I have to remind
Mhm.
myself that. So whatever thing I think he needs to like choose, like that is me choosing it, not him. So I really remind myself of that. And I want to be really careful of not imposing what I think he should do. I can share when he asks what my experiences were. Like you've said this before, you can share with your kids what your experiences were, but it's their experiences, it's their lens, it's their life. Um,
Yeah, their life.
And
Yeah.
so I'm trying to be very careful of that. And I guess like this is so helpful for me because the point of this is like whatever schools he picks to go see this spring, whatever coaches he reaches out to and school programs he's going to go see. He's going to go East Coast, West Coast, right? We're going to see
Yeah.
a couple. The only purpose of this is to gather information. And that's what I need to communicate to him. It's not a choice of where
Okay.
you're going. This is like,
Yes.
let's just gather information. Let's pick out a couple of spots. We're going to gather information. And based on that, you might find another place you need to go. You might find, you like
Yes.
this or this. Like you might find out information. So I need to change the conversation from choosing which schools you want to go to let's go check out these schools and see
Okay.
what you learn from that experience, not what like you're making a choice. We're going to pick these three and then from there you're going to decide where you're going to go. That's not the conversation. And that creates a false urgency too, because he's a junior, he has time. And like,
Yes.
some people like when you talk to recruiters and stuff, and they're like, "Oh, you got
Yeah,
to get
especially
on
in
this, blah
sports.
blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah." And I'm like, "Do
Yes.
I really need to?" Like, yes, of
No, the
course.
coaches have urgency. You don't have urgency. The coaches have urgency because they're trying to put their teams together over the course of the years and their programs and decide who, yeah, they have the urgency, which is,
True.
that's a constant thing in decision making. When you're looking at it, you're like, why am I getting the pressure? This is not my emergency. This is your emergency. Yes, I mean,
Exactly.
I understand how I can play into this and that maybe you'll give my spot to someone else, but then so be it. Then I'll make a different choice. And by the way, if this, to your point, if the choice is obvious, it's easy. If the choice is obvious, it's easy, right? So if you have to make a decision where it's like, oh, do I want to wear the blue dress or the red dress? And I hate blue. Well, the decision's easy. I'm going to choose the red dress all day long, right? But when you're given a choice where it's like, well, am I going to wear the blue dress or the red dress to the inauguration? Let's say something really big, right? To the something that's going to be historical and everything. So am I going to wear the blue dress or the red dress? And you have to make a decision between two seemingly equal options. That's where it's difficult. That's
Mhm.
where it's really difficult, right? Where you just have to say, and that maybe he'll get to that where he's looking at those two, and that will have urgency. That will have actual urgency because at that point, it probably will be the deadlines. It probably will be, I need an answer by, which is, even that is not always true. I need an answer by this day, and then you don't give them the answer and they're like, okay, well, I need an answer by 2 days
Yeah.
later. I still need an answer. You're like, really? You needed that urgent answer. Yeah. So yeah, to your point, okay, this is like loaded too though, because the gathering information also in your context, what you said about not projecting on him your decision process, I think we can extrapolate that to literally every communication we have with another human. And
Mm.
all the judgments we have about other people, all the judgments we make about other people and the way they make decisions, the way they live their lives, the way they cross the street. I don't know. Believe me, I've said that many a time driving. What the heck are you doing? Like, why do you drive like this? Like,
Right.
what's wrong with you? Yeah, like that's terrible. It's like
Mhm.
it's terrible. But they have a different decision making framework in driving, Rachel, than I do. My decision making framework
Oh,
is
good
very
point.
different from
Good
theirs,
point.
and I don't need to project mine. I guess. I mean, I guess I don't need to project mine on theirs, but on them. But that's a really key point is to think about that. So, I I listened to something recently that has a big impact that I think I can layer into this conversation. Had a big impact on me. And the way she was talking about it, I'll link it because it's a little vignette kind of TED talk. And she was talking about just exactly what we're saying. If if you have two equal decisions, you think they're equal until you start layering things on them. And then you realize decisions aren't math. Decisions aren't 2 plus 2 is 4. Is it 4? Yes. I'm going to decide that it's 4. No, that's not how, I mean, that could be, those are the easy decisions. Those are the easy decisions when you're like, it does, I need a car that weighs X amount. Does this weigh X amount? Yes, it does. Okay, I'll take that one for my, 179 deduction. And here, off I go. Yeah, that's easy. But the difficult ones are when the decision is about values, which
Mhm.
I think is what you're getting to with him and and the decision for college and all that. So what she's talking about is when it comes to these decisions that you can't quantify, that you need what she calls, it's a technical term like normative analysis, like you need to decide where that fits in the frame. Then then your obligation is to insert yourself and make your preference and take your own agency, which is your point about not taking over his agency. Take your own agency, and by doing that, you have she qualifies it as an opportunity. You have an opportunity to be who you want to be, to create the person that you want to be. And that is because you are taking it something that is seemingly nebulous or doesn't really have an easy answer, and you're making a choice about who you want to be in that decision-making process, what decision you want to make, because that decision is not about the math of the decision. It's about you staking a claim in who you are.
True. Okay. I love that. And that speaks so much to me. And then I look at a teenager and
Yeah.
that seems so scary as a teenager to like stake
Well, but
a
why? But why?
claim.
Because he has agency also, unless
Yeah.
unless like that's what we're saying. Yeah, okay, I get what you're saying. But this is like that's actually interesting too.
It's great
Because
to learn. Like it's a great exercise for him
what
to
are
like
you
start.
suggesting then, that his agency is different only because you have age and wisdom behind you and he has not?
Um,
So that his personality and his preferences are somehow different, or not, I don't want to say not okay, but like not
I don't think I
developed
think
enough?
teenage years are to try and to experience and to sample, right? And so this
Yeah.
asking him to like stake a claim, like I want to be careful of that because I don't want to like create this big weighty decision on it, right?
I
Of
think it's
like,
West. I view it as less weighty.
this for me, it seems like
So my perception on that is I view it as less weighty, and I can give you examples.
okay,
In this, we're talking about our kids, but in literally insert partner here, insert your work example
totally,
here, insert
yeah,
everything. I have thousands of examples, especially in work. And one of the big advice I often give people, because we both been managers and we've led teams and all this stuff, is when you have a bunch of stuff on your plate, and everyone is guilty of this in terms of, and I've actually even talked to the people who work with me, and have other bosses or whatever. I'm like, oh, this is what you need to do, to the boss who I know that I'm probably, selling them down the river. But it's, you go to your manager and you say, hey, look, hey, you know, Jane, you've given me all these tasks. I have all these tasks, and Juan gave me this task this morning, and Gloria gave me this task also. So now I have these tasks. I think I'm reporting to you. Are you my boss? I believe I've had to do this, and we're too. Are you my boss? So, okay, you're my boss. So you're my big boss. So I have these things. They're all, conflicting. What do you want me to prioritize? What you are my manager. I don't need to sit here and like stew about this and try and figure out like, oh, I've got all this stuff coming at me. I need to get all this done. No, you take that in business, right? You take that to the highest level of your whoever you're reporting to, and you say, look, you prioritize. It's not my job to sit here and prioritize all this crap that's coming at me that randomly from people who I don't even work for, and I'm not my boss and whatever. So you can kind of take that the same way in life. So what I have with our situation is many different kids have many different lives, and they have different agencies, and they have different things that are important to them. So I have been well instructed by my second son, who's probably all my kids are my great teachers, but he is a really great teacher for me. And to talk about it in the context of agency, he's very clear that what kind of life he wants to live, and
yeah. He
how
always
that
has been.
lines
It's been
up with.
amazing.
Always.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we always say he's like a 100-year-old man. Like he's like a very old
Mhm.
soul. So he's very clear that, and as he's looking at these colleges and his choices, and he wants to be an engineer, which is, there's a lot of ways to do that. But as he's looking at those colleges and those choices, he's saying to himself, okay, I know who I am. I know what I want to get out of this experience in general. I know socially that, yeah, I'd like to challenge myself a little, but, I don't need to be at a big rah-rah school. But if there is that, but I definitely want friends, and I have all that kind of stuff, even that. And then post school, well, I know I'm fine being in this area that's a little bit cold, but I want to be able to, move around, all that kind of stuff. I just feel if we don't challenge them to start thinking about their preferences, and this is true for all of us, it's true for me as I'm sitting here. Again, I'm always talking to myself. If you don't challenge them to have their own preferences or start to think about what do you want and
Yes.
what are you willing to give and get. I have another situation that I'm going through that's also very difficult for another person where they're trying to figure out, to be in or out of a relationship. Well, if you're trying to figure out to be in or out of a relationship, that's a difficult decision, especially when you're in a relationship with someone who's really nice,
Yeah.
who you really like, but they don't really like give you exactly, not exactly, they don't give you really 85% or 90%, 75% of what you want in that relationship. Well, what are you going to decide? And then even what I told her was, it's to your point, you don't have to make this decision tomorrow. If it's so stretching your heartstrings and it's so, getting in the way of your mental health, you need to like take that
Yeah.
as a message
Yeah.
to take off the urgency. What is the urgency? No one's making you decide this, especially him. He doesn't even know like what's going on. It doesn't even know that this is even a conversation, and it's a younger person, so it's a different conversation. But yeah, so speak to that in terms of how much of that is developing our own agency, because that's really what she talks about, is being able by making these difficult decisions that aren't math. They are not obvious. One answer is, clearly the better choice. You're establishing yourself, establishing your preferences, taking agency into ownership in the world. And that's what I mean about staking a claim. It's really about identifying who you are and not being what she calls a drifter, which I thought was a really helpful, because I don't want to
Mm,
be a drifter, right? A
no.
helpful,
Yeah.
nomenclature, right? A drifter, you're like, oh, what's a drifter? And she, defines that as like, you're kind of like, she's like, I've drifted, I drifted into law and then into philosophy, back to philosophy. And even that maybe is some of the fear here,
Mm.
is that the kids might be drifters.
Well, okay, so there's so much in that, what you just shared. So first off, what I'm reframing in my head right now is this is where my son gets to practice. He gets to practice
Yes.
like making these decisions about who he is and how he wants to show up, and that,
Yes.
like
Yes. What he
and
wants.
yeah, what he wants.
Yeah.
And there's not a right or a wrong. And so that's a beautiful opportunity for him right now. And you're right, it doesn't have to be that big. Um and if I could share that with him and let him know that then that can also change, like to not be like, you're making this choice and you're going to always wear black socks from here on out. Like,
Right.
no, you can change
Right.
your socks tomorrow. Like, but put them
Yes.
on today and rock those black socks, right? Like, and wear them
Yeah.
and like, own them. And so that's really helpful to frame that way. And understanding it and how I can share that part with him. And then that other piece about like placing urgency where it doesn't need to be. Like how we do
Mhm.
that to ourselves. Like no one else does it. Like your example, like the other party of that relationship has no idea what's going on. So there's no urgency coming from there. The
No.
urgency is coming from in here. And it's like, where is that? And why is that? And I am really good at that. And so I slow down
Yeah.
and I look at that and I was like, is there really urgency here? And sometimes that like unsure, discomfort, unclear is because I don't have enough information. And what I know I do, and what all of our brains are really great at doing, is if there's a gap, we fill them and we fill them with the worst case scenario, tend to fill them
Mhm.
with the worst case
Yes.
scenario.
Yeah.
And so then whatever gap I have with some of the information I have is now filled with just stuff that I've made up in the middle. And then I'm coming to a conclusion and have urgency on it. I'm not actually calculating it right to come to a conclusion, like to make a decision. So now I need to step back and be like, okay, there's a gap here clearly because I'm not so sure. And I'm going to sit in this and let that gap be filled until I have the information I need to make a clear where that decision feels clear. And,
Mhm.
I know that's not always possible. Like sometimes you're like, I put an offer on a house and they counteroffered and that expires. Like, of course,
Right.
there's a
Yeah,
timeline,
exactly. Yeah.
and to your
Yes.
point, maybe they'll say like, "Oh, give yourself another," like, "We'll extend it for a little longer," whatever. But there are some times that those, like, there are dates that you have to make a decision to accept a spot at a university, like, totally.
Yeah, or
There's
job or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there are places of
Mhm.
urgency, and those are important exercises to go through of how to make a choice when there is a timeline and you don't have the information. But when there's a self-imposed timeline, I look at that
Well, but hang
completely.
on, even in that, like, even as you're saying that, uh, okay, even if it's a job, there's a deadline on the job to accept
Mhm.
that. There's a deadline on these colleges. There's a deadline on the house offer. Uh, that didn't come from space and land in your front yard and say, "Deal with me." You made that offer on the house. You applied for that job, right? You applied to that college. So we could even, start
Back it
to
up a
think
bit.
about those kinds of things, right? Where, all of a sudden the urgency is on us. Well, can we backdate that? Like we have the opportunity to be thinking about what's the answer to this question even before this. I tell my kids all this all the time. Like, you need to have the answer to this question before you're in the situation.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, and that's not just like a job interview. That's just anything in life. Like, who are you? How are you going to show up? What are your principles? What's your guiding light? What's your answer? Before you get in this situation. So even that kind of stuff, we create urgency around it, but that is, to your point that you make so well often, is that self-inflicted, urgency, right? We just made it urgent. We just created this into now we have a problem because now we're all stressed out, and we've all been there. And I know, Rachel, you and I are similar in, I can challenge us here too. As everyone's listening, they're probably like, what are they even talking about today? This is like, it's such a crazy topic. But it's stressful even to talk about because you think about how many times you're in this situation. So you and I'm going to frame this as anxious in this specific thing that I'm going to talk about. This specific thing that I'm going to talk about is our need for information to make
Mm.
decisions. Our need to have, as like, literally, I know when you and I plan trips, it was separately or together, whatever, but when we plan our trips, we triangulate every piece of information, every rental car, every tour, every guide, every hotel. It is like, right? We are on it because we're information this, information that, and we gather all this information. And then once we have all the information, it's like, okay, well, what do you want that to be? Do you want to have a break here? Do you not want to have a break here? Do you want to keep going? Do you want to, and it's all this, Tetris, like a
Mhm.
lot of Tetris. And I think a lot of other people maybe don't have all that need to gather so much information to make. I can tell you my husband doesn't. He's just like, oh, I made a decision. And we kind of have a little, I don't want to say gently, back and forth on this sometimes, because I view that as not thoughtful, not
Mhm.
thorough.
Right.
And he views that as, uh,
Decisive.
this decisions are easy for me, right?
Yeah. Just decisive.
Which is why, when it comes to the car, I was like, hey, can you just kind of take this part over?
Yeah.
Because I know that this is easy for you. And it's not easy. It's not as easy for me because I think about it differently. And that's a really good point too. I've learned, I still get a little kind of miffed about that because I'm like, really? Did you even think about that? Did you even put one thought in that? And you're just
Right.
like, well, let's just do this or let's just do that. And sometimes he is flip, I will say, like, and he would probably agree, I hope. Sometimes he is flip and he just kind of says things and, it's not really like he's like, okay, then he's like, okay, let me think about it. Let me take your framework of thinking about it. But yeah, I mean, what do you think about that? Because that's that's a lot too in what there's the concept of, and I think maybe that's what's coming up for you even now, even in your not your decision but your son's decision is, do we have all the information? Well, that's a lot of your information. He might have more intuitive information, or he might know more kind of what's feeling right for him.
Yeah.
But you, being you, and me being me, want to have as much information as possible. I know, even I went through this with my daughter, my oldest, in her college, and now she's transferring, whatever. But my whole thing was, eh, um, you can always change, which
Yeah.
is true,
Yeah.
and but it's also, but you only have one. I told my other daughter recently, I'm like, you're only 16 once. You're only 16 one time. And this is your point, right? This is like kind of the urgency of it is I was like, you're only 16 once. When you are a freshman in college, you're only a freshman in college one time,
True.
like a true freshman, right?
Right.
You're only a true freshman one time. There are decisions that are made in time frames that are intractable. They're not going to change. You're not going to be
Oh
able
yeah.
to, redo that or whatever, right? So kind of talk to me a little bit on that because it's a little bit about gathering the information. I'm saying the same thing to my son. I'm like, hey, we need to go look at colleges. I need, he didn't apply to one. He had like the deadline skipped or whatever. This is jokes on me because I was like, hey, how did you miss that deadline? And now I'm all incensed. Like, what's going on? And I was trying to be my grateful, not greedy self. I was trying to put all my hats on. I was trying to be grateful, Rach. I was really trying to be not greedy. I was really trying to be not greedy about that application.
Oh my gosh.
But I would give myself maybe an F or a D minus in that because I was like, how, like, okay, I understand that. Why are we missing this? And he's like, well, it just really wasn't that important to me. And I was like, okay, but it is important to me. And in this segment, it's really important to me. It's not important to you, but it's no skin off your back to make the decision that's important to me. Right. And then
Ah.
then we have options. I said, it's no skin off your back. You push a button. You push a button, you pay them my $50 and it's no skin off your back, right? You've
Mm.
already done the whole application for all these other schools. It's really it takes nothing away from you. And it gives me tremendous relief and, options that I believe are valuable for you. Even if you just get another attaboy for getting into another college that's somewhat, selective as an engineer, that you don't realize that you're going to like that. I do realize that you're going to like that. So
Mm.
yeah, talk to me on that because there's a lot in here also in how even with the urgency can also be created because we spend too much time not thinking about the decision before it's in front of it, or like the house. Like, okay, here's the decision tree. If it's this, that, and the other, decision's already made. If it comes back as a counter like this, we're not going to do, before you're emotional about it and you're making all kinds of like emotional decisions, or the anxiety of, do I have all the information that I need to make this decision? And that to me is a little bit of uh kind of not being so sure of yourself sometimes, not just being super
Yeah.
confident that, right?
Well, and I guess, to your point, we live in a time now where information is everywhere and at our fingertips. And if we say we
Yeah.
don't have enough information, we could say that forever, right? Because there's always
Oh,
more information.
forever.
So this
Yes.
idea that we have to have all the information to make the decision is not true because we're never going to have
That's
all
not
that
true.
information. So it's like, how
Yep.
much information do I need? How much? And then when is it going to
Or what specific
what
information do I need? Yeah.
yes, and,
Yeah.
at what point is it gonna be too much information where making the decision becomes harder, right? We know the more choices, the more options, the less happy we
Yes.
are with the outcome. So
Yep.
the
The
same
menu with
thing.
10 things is better was worse than the menu with 5. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so,
Yeah.
like, we know that, right? And then for you and I that are information seekers and we like knowledge and we like to understand the situation, we do, and we say we gather all the information, but we really don't. We gather the information that we value, and then we make the
Correct.
choice. And with that,
Yes.
there's a filter there. And so, like, I actually now practice a different way of, like, doing some travel setup of where I don't set up everything. I do
Mhm.
minimal amount because then I'm like, then I
Oh, like
can
the itinerary stuff. I don't either. Yeah.
no, but
Yeah.
even like picking a hotel, like I'm just like, that's fine.
Oh, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Like even
Yes.
the ones that, like I used to spend a lot of time on it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it and not spend as much time on it and see how that goes. And if it's not the greatest
Great.
hotel, that's okay. If it's not in the right place, like I got legs, I can, take public transportation, like I can figure it out. And so I've tried to let go of some of that because I also know how much it monopolizes my time and I value my
Ah,
time. Right. So I am now
yes.
making
And I value a really
choices.
nice hotel, so I
Yeah.
can't I can't do
So,
that.
and that's okay. Like, that's okay. Like, but this is where I get to practice this in my
Yeah,
world.
it's awesome.
Right.
Totally.
And there's
Yeah.
probably some things that you're like, Rachel, why can't you make that decision? I was like, because that's not one of them that I can do like that. Like, I have
Right.
to,
That's your
like,
super high value. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
totally. So that's part of it. And then I would say to your point about your son, he's making a decision based on his values, and you're asking him to make a decision based on your values.
Correct.
And
Right. Well, I'm mandating it because he is my son. Yes, yes,
okay, but
yes.
is that really what you wanna
Yeah.
do at this point? Like, do I
Yes,
know as
it
parents, we
is.
want as many doors open for our kids as possible. Like, we want them to have all the options available. But on the other hand, like, your example of, the car, and not, like, a decision was taken away because the urgency wasn't
Mhm.
there. Like,
Right.
okay, so the stakes aren't that high, right? You can get another
Yeah,
vehicle
there
that
are
has
plenty
4
of cars in
wheels
the world.
and goes, right?
Yes.
Like, not as
Correct.
huge.
Yes.
And I would argue, just like you said before, these decisions for college, they're not set in stone. So
Right.
the urgency or the importance you placed on that for, your son to, like, click the button, he made his decision based on his values and his choice. And you know what? If he goes to a different school and he realizes, that school that my mom said I should have and I should have because that's actually where I want to be, he could transfer there any point, right? Like he could
Maybe.
still do that. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, maybe.
Maybe.
Or he could go after it,
Yeah.
right? Like it could still be an option.
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
forever
sure, it's
gone.
not as much of a I think in that it's a good challenge on that for sure, and in that setting, that I think it's more in the communication though too, because I will just out myself in this. I there is a whole grid, there is a whole spreadsheet about the colleges that are being chosen, so I think it's important too, right? Because this is about follow through. This is about these were the commitments that were on that list. It's not like I just pulled this out of here. Like we had discussed this. This was on here on the list. Everyone had
Mhm.
talked about it. Yes, because this has this program that's number one in the country. This has this
Sure.
program that's really good. This has this program. So
Mhm.
he's a he's an equal opportunist in his engineering, right? So he has lots of different ways that he can express his engineering, and one of them is this. And his brother's in the same state. There's a kind of a lot of things
Sure.
um, that would be helpful for that. And I mean, I guess it's true. I mean, and maybe I could just been like, whatever. But to me, that was more of a conversation of commitment. And, it's,
Follow
it's
through,
like
right?
slipping through yeah, it's like slipping through the cracks. And then you're going to say, oh, it just wasn't that important to me because you didn't do it.
Mhm.
So it's like, but if you did it, you wouldn't have said, "Oh, I did it because it was important to me." So you can't then say, "I didn't do it because it wasn't important to me."
Right.
No, you're doing it. Do or do not is not always because it's important or it's not. It's just because you said you would do it. You said
True.
it. You
And
said
that's
you would do it.
because
You said you would push the button.
yeah, because
Yeah.
you
It was
value
more.
that.
For me, I think it
That
was more
is
related to that.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you also value that. Like that is part of who you are. You're like, you're a commitment
hundred
person.
percent,
You're like, you say you're
a
going to do it.
hundred
I
percent.
believe you're going to do it. It's done, right? And then it doesn't get
It's
done and you're
done.
like, "What?" And so
And why am I the person? Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
And
And why am I putting in these
true.
discipline markers for you at this age? And that
So
frustrates me too, which is,
yeah.
I don't know if that's fair, but it does.
So here's, I can't imagine what it's like to go through this 4 times with 4 different kids. So I have a lot of appreciation for you. I'm just like with one, I'm like,
Well, I'm only
"Ah."
two in, and one has
One's
done the year off
yeah,
thing, and one has done the switching schools thing. I mean, to your
yeah.
point, it's just like you have to
You're
let it
still
go.
in it.
I mean, you
You're
have to
not
let it
done
go.
with it, right? Like you're in it
No,
in
not even close.
every phase right now.
Nope.
So I'm not like I have a lot of respect for what you're going through. And maybe the conversation with your son is like, "Okay, did your values change here?" Because it was on the list, like, how did your values change? Like, is there something should we now adjust the list because something has shifted for you not to think this is important anymore? So, like, do I understand what your values are or what your drive is or what you want now? Maybe something has shifted, or maybe, like, who knows? Maybe it's just a teenager being a teenager. But, like, I think those
Yeah.
conversations are really good right now because these are the things that they get to learn about, like, the choices they make reflect who they are, right?
Well, this was my point earlier, exactly, that the
So here it
decision is
is.
not and I got that's a really good point, Rach, because that's what I was picking up with that lack of action, was
Yes.
that is that is, you are showing who you are. Who you are is someone who's not reliable, who's not dependable, who doesn't do what they say they're going to do. I think that's what I was rubbing up against in that,
Sure.
like, yes, I want him to have that option. Is it a do or die? No, I mean, whatever. Like I said, he'll go to college. This is my kid who's done an amazing job going through community college, taking a ton of classes, like all the things that I've been preaching for 100 years to my kids. Like, this is how you do it. You go to community college and then you come in as a
Oh.
transfer student. You say go half price, all this stuff. Like he's done it because he's aligned with that. Great. My other kids are not aligned with it. He is, right? So yeah,
This is really
I think it was more,
yeah, and this is like, okay, so I'm gonna challenge you on something else. So,
well, right, because he's doing all those other things.
well,
Yeah.
and I would say for you, this was a moment of like, this is the kid that I don't have to worry about. This is the kid that's got it.
Yeah,
Like
I don't.
he has
I
it.
don't
He
have
has
to, yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like he's got it,
Yes.
right? Like he's not the one that you're like, I don't know where exactly they're going, like he is like on his path, right? And in this moment, it was the first time
Yeah.
you're like, wait, you didn't stay on the path? Like what just happened? So for you, I believe, or I can think like if I put myself in your place, I'd be like, wow, this is different. Like I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting this from him. And now my brain's trying to make
Well,
this like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good point. And it's,
And it's just something to
it's
think about.
activation
Like
energy and yeah.
just
Well, I'm
something.
thinking about it from a grateful, not greedy perspective. I'm thinking about it from a decision making
Mm,
perspective, right? Because the decision, also making decisions, is also about follow through and doing stuff, and
sure.
and the urgency culture. That I can pick that up from that, because the urgency culture, 100%, was created by me. I created that urgency, in that moment. But I didn't create that deadline, Rach. I wasn't the university, registrar that said this is going to be the deadline. This is how we're going to do it. So, they made all that. So yeah. So let me move to my other situation
Okay.
about the and I can't disclose too many details, but when you're in a situation, like I said, with a younger adult
Mhm.
and um, making a decision. And I think young adults have a lot of decisions, to your point, that feel urgent.
Yes.
And there's that whole box. Is it urgent and important, or urgent and unimportant? Or, is it is it, important and urgent, like that. So I think in a lot of young adult decisions, they're important but maybe not urgent, right? But they have a lot of important decisions to make, and one of them might be staying in this relationship. One of them might be, taking this major, doing that major versus this major. One of them might be going to this college versus that college. Yeah, gosh, I mean, I think you think about a lot of the decisions that you make as a young adult. I mean, my
Absolutely.
son is now his 20s, and I was just telling him, like, there's so much. I feel like this is the most expansive decade, because so much of your life is built, not that it's over. No, it's not over, but so much of your life is built in that decade.
Mm.
Then you spend another couple decades like living out or changing or modifying, or whatever. We can always reinvent ourselves, but that's like a really critical decade with a lot of decisions. So one of those being this relationship decision. So even that's kind of a tough thing, because I'm just even reflecting on how to give guidance in that decision making piece, because what I said about that was, you have to decide what you want, and that's not always easy. And you have to
Yeah.
decide what you want in the space of giving up options, which I hate. I hate it. I absolutely hate giving up options. To your point, in
Yeah.
planning, I'm like, I could stay at this hotel or that hotel, but I'll stay at this hotel first. If I change my mind, I could do,
Yeah. I
I
have
hate
like
giving up
multiple flights
options.
booked. I could go this way or
Yeah,
that way. That's
exactly. I always
totally
have,
you.
yeah, this flight and a backup, and oh my
Yeah. I
God,
might
yeah,
go
it's
here, might
terrible.
go
It's
there.
terrible. And it's
Yeah.
probably 100% unnecessary. And it's also very, first world problems, right? That you
Mhm.
get to have that level of flexibility, that you could, actually have that many planes available that they could even, take you to these places. But yeah, in thinking about the framework for that, it's the relationship decision. Mm, yeah. So I was like, you're just gonna have to decide who you are, like who you want to be, and what do you want. And is that mirror that's coming back to you the mirror that you want? Are you, just because someone's a really nice person, they can be a really nice person in the world and you can respect them for that. Yeah, I respect you're a nice person. I respect you for that. That doesn't mean I have to be in a relationship with you. And I was like, well, if you weren't attracted to him or if you didn't have, this kind of romantic relationship with him,
Yeah.
there wouldn't be any conflict in just being like, yeah, he's a really nice guy. So what is it that, that you've taken on that has, given, I don't know, they just take on a whole
So,
different characteristic,
well,
right? In these
and
romantic relationships that then you do create all this sense of urgency. Oh, I don't know, like, my friend said I should do this and da, da, da. So, like your friends are going to tell you, like you're saying, they're going to tell you what
they
is
want.
somehow
Like,
relevant for them.
yeah,
Because especially younger friends, like usually we don't have all that, wisdom to kind of be able to say
true.
these are the potentials, these are the options. But yeah, like what about those like relationship decisions
Sure.
or,
I mean, those are,
big job decisions or moving across the country decisions, or decisions like, when you're one of the spouses is choosing to take a job in another part of the country that, I mean, my parents went through this, and moved countries. And that was really difficult on my mom. And that was a decision that I don't know if that was a joint decision, right?
yeah. Well, and this is like,
Because
I
it was
like
what was
the,
relevant for one of them.
yeah. And this is, I love the discussion of decision making in regards to romantic relationships because they're not
Yeah,
black and white ever. Right. Like there's
ever.
so much mixed in there because it's emotions. Like it is all like it is in it. So, for a job, you're like, okay, this earning versus this earning, this position versus this position, or
Oh,
going
you
here.
could maybe map it
You
is what
can
you're
math,
saying.
you
Yeah,
can
you could
get
maybe
some
make it about
solid
map.
pieces
Yeah.
in there. And some people say you could do that in a relationship, sure. But it is like, it is an emotion, right? You're with someone because you
Mhm.
like them, you think they're a good person, you're attracted to them, you have history with them. Like there's all these pieces.
Yeah.
And me being in the dating world,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a really big piece of it is like what um and here's the ironic thing is my son gave me really good advice about dating. And he was like, I was like, well, I don't know. And he's like, Mom, he's like, that's why we date. We date because we don't know. Like you date someone, you're with someone
Mhm.
because you learn, and that's the only way you get to know them. And that's the other piece is
Right.
like a lot of the times we think we know them and we jump ship and we really don't. We're still in like the discovery phase. And I'm not saying this or that for the example you've been giving,
Oh. Oh, yeah.
but I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, we are still like like dating is all about information gathering, learning, not just learning about them, but learning about you, learning about how you two fold together, learning about like what that is. Even for young people, that's what they're doing. And they're practicing that for later on in life. So like get on for that,
Yes,
the
that's what I
example you're
told her.
giving,
Yeah.
because this is part of the growth and the experience. And the only way we get better at this is by doing it. And so part of it of staying in it is to learn more about you, learn more about what it is you
Yeah.
want, learn more about what's drawing you here, what is important to you, what do you value, and what does this person bring for you? What do you guys create together? And I'm really clear on
Yeah.
this. For me, I want to be with someone who chooses me every day. That I think it is a choice to stay in a relationship, and people will
I think that's what she's going through
stay.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, they will stay
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
relationship just because it's comfortable, it's
Yeah.
easy, it's familiar, blah, 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 all of
Yes.
those reasons. And I'm
Yes.
like, I don't want that. I want someone who
Right.
actually chooses me every day. That even on my bad days, they choose me. That like even on
And
like
through action. I think that's what she's
through
struggling with. It's
action.
like through action, not just like, "Oh, but I really like you, and I really,
Yeah, and
whatever." Right?
yeah, and
No.
that it is like and I do the same in return. Like, it is not one-sided
Yeah.
that they pick me every day, they
Right.
I also
I
pick
think that's what's
them
going
every
on. Yeah.
day, and it is a conscious choice. And there are times that I'm like, "Oh, wow," like, I don't think there's anything left for me here. And I remember you saying this to me, you're like, "You gotta be in or out, you can't keep going back and forth." And I'm like, "Okay, okay, I'm in,"
Right.
right?
I think that's what she's going through too.
And
Yeah.
so
Is
that's the
the
key is like,
yeah, perseveration. It's like
get in it until you're clear that it's time to get out of it.
until you're out.
And I just
Yes.
had a friend that like had been in a long-term relationship years, and finally it sunk in and she was like, I finally heard exactly what he'd been saying and it hit and I realized this is not there's not a future. Like this is not compatible. And it's not
Mm.
anything new that was said. It wasn't any like groundbreaking, like, I never knew that about. That had been public information, but finally it sunk in. And she waited until she was clear to see that and then be like,
Right.
okay, I'm able to hear that now. I'm able to fully see that now, that this is not changing, that you are exactly who you are. And now I realize that this is a deal breaker, that there is not a
Yeah.
future. And she committed to that up until the last point, and she was like, okay, now I see it. And so I think sometimes we rush, that urgency to make a decision. Sometimes we rush that without
Yeah.
really getting clear. And then that, I think, when we break up with someone and we're not clear, that's when we go back and we're like, I don't know, maybe I should have tried differently, like blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah.
Right.
Like,
I should go back
yeah.
or
Or then
yeah.
you guys end
Yeah.
up getting back together, which I'm always like, I am in or out
I'm
and
always
done.
against that,
Right.
which is what I told her too. Yeah,
And
because she was like,
so,
"Well, maybe if we break up, I could go back." And I was like, "No,
no.
you gotta be,
And
yeah,
that's where, like, when something is done, I'm like, okay, then I can look back on it and I'm like, I did this, I did that. It was very clear. It was that, like, he saw that, and then
right,
I can remind myself, like, exactly what happened there. And there's not a moment that I'm like, oh, I need to turn the ship around and go back. Like, no. And
yes,
just
yeah,
like I consciously choose it every day, that time I consciously chose that this is not right, or it's not right for the two of us. And that it's hard. It's like there's some weird thing inside that creates this urgency feeling to like make a decision, make a choice, and
mhm.
that one is totally self-imposed, completely self-imposed.
Yes. Yeah, and it's kind of goes both ways though too, because there's also which I feel like maybe is going on for her also. There's it's not an emergency, you don't have to make a decision, but it's also you can't just sit in indecision out of fear and not recognize it as fear and not recognize it as,
True.
for what it is, which is, you don't want to make this decision or you don't want to be in this situation or whatever it is that you
You
got
just wanna
yourself
be in a
into.
relationship, and this is the person that happens to be.
Yeah,
And not that I'm
or you
saying that
just don't wanna.
that's where she is, but that is also, I
Right.
think, some of that. And, like, you don't wanna.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, it could be but I think a lot of it is you're trying to make that person into the right person, and that
Mm.
it's hard to accept that, and and then that decision is on you. So she even said, she's like, "I wish you would just do something that was, like, finite, that I like, cheat on me or something where it's just like, okay,
Yeah.
that's an obvious," and I was like, "Well, then you're looking for him to make your decision." You're
That's a
looking
good
for
point.
him to make the decision for you, which is I think this happens to people a lot. I'm sure it happens to me, right?
Yeah,
Where you want the
totally.
external
Yes.
signal that your decision that's your decision. And then you could tell everyone, yeah, he cheated on me and I broke up with him and that's
Yeah.
over. And that kind of a thing, because then you have justification for your decision. But we all know that you can make whatever decision you want any day for any reason, any small thing, any big thing, any cumulative thing. It's your choice.
Yeah.
You don't even have to have a reason. You just, you just do it, right? So I think that was a trap. It still is like a trap for her. Also, is I don't have one thing that I could just. I have she has things that obviously are working or not working, but she doesn't have that one thing where she'd just be like, yeah, and then this, and then that's it. And I'm
Right.
like, yeah, because
Well,
that's what makes it hard, and that's what makes it your decision and not his decision,
and
right?
well,
By omission, right? By
yes. And here's the other piece of it, though, is when two people come together, whatever age, right? Whatever point in time, they're not gonna like, there's going to be things you're gonna compromise on, right? Like, they're not gonna be all the
yeah, for
things,
sure.
right? And so then it's the
Yeah.
question of like, are these
Mhm.
really like, how important are these for you? Like, are they really that important? Are these deal breakers? Like, or is it like the volume of them, like all of that? And it's like, okay, so I love these 10 things, but like these two things drive me insane. And it's like, okay, do they really? Can you let go of them? Like, how important are they to you? Are they, do they brush up against your values? All of those things. Like, and these are good things to think about, because if we sit here and think we're going to find the perfect person that meets all of these things and that shows up in all of the ways and
Yeah.
doesn't have any flaws, like, let me tell you, I am not that person. Like, I have my issues, my quirks.
No, none of us is.
I'm like,
Right, none of us
but
is.
and so I
Right.
think
Yeah.
sometimes like when we're dating, we expect all these things. And I was like, like there's got to be a realistic part to that of, knowing
Yeah.
that someone in front of you, like the key things, are the important things met here? And then what are the other things and
Yeah.
how do they shake out? And I'm not saying that that's true in this situation, but those are the things I often think about is like, okay, is this person like, are our core values the same? Like, do they meet the critical things, like the things that are important to me? And all the other things, are they just things that like I've just put there that don't really that I can find other sources for that aren't a big deal, that are things that I can compromise on, like, and that's where relationships are about folding in together, are about, a balance of those pieces to build something unique.
But the balance is critical, and that's the decision part, right? Because the
True.
balance is, what I told her is, and I would say this about any decision, right? About whether it's deciding to take this job, don't try not to in your life accommodate yourself to less than.
Mm.
Try not to accommodate yourself to it's okay. I'm cool. I'm good. I'm fine. It'll be okay. I can deal with it. Try not to do that, because if that becomes your nervous system default,
Mm.
that I'm chill with this, or I'm fine with this. And I've
Yeah.
always look up to women and men conceivably, but women is where I focus with this, women who can be in the situation that she's in, make a firm decision and move on, or make a firm decision and stay, whatever. But especially given what she's not getting and what she wants and what she knows she's, I don't like this whole like your worth conversation, whatever, but knowing what where her values are and what she knows that she can get out in the world, right? She knows that this is available in the world. She's not asking for like what you're saying, just
Right.
she knows that this is available. She's not available with him, right? It's just not available with him. So that's when I said, just try not to allow your nervous system to really accommodate to BS, which is no, please don't accommodate to that, or accommodate to less than you want, because then you acclimate to that. You acclimate, and I would say that that's true for any decision, right? So
Yeah.
in decision making process, if your ability to make decisions is to like, well, whatever the group wants, whatever's better for everyone else, like whatever's okay, then you strip yourself of your agency, you strip yourself of your personality, you strip yourself of your uniqueness,
Yeah.
because you're complacent. You're not out there making decisions. You're not out there being the person that you are meant to be in the world. You're just succumbing to indecision, or going with the group because I'm so chill. Either way, you can be
Yeah.
chill and also have agency.
Yeah.
You can be chill on certain things, but then at what point, are you going to have agency? And this is why one of the things that, is out there is like this nice guy thing, like be aware almost of the nice guy, because that nice guy is potentially someone who doesn't make decisions, who will be nice to anyone, who, just doesn't have a rudder in the world, right? And that could be the same for the nice girl. Like, it's about being able to assert yourself in your own life. And every decision, I would say, is about being able to, whether that is, I'm going to have a bagel or yogurt, or I'm going to have, for breakfast, I'm going to be a coffee drinker, I'm going to be a tea drinker, I'm going to live in the mountains, I'm going to live in the country. All of those things are your ability to assert yourself, which is really, as I think you would agree, like kind of that's our job. Right? That's our job in the world, like being humans and being why me? Why am I here on this earth? Why wasn't I born as Rachel? Because I was born as me, and my parents gave me the name Kris. Why? I don't know, but okay, I'll just live into that. Why do I have dark hair, not blonde hair? I don't know, but I'll live into that.
Right.
What I am here to express my own uniqueness, and that through decisions and through proactive choice is how I get to do that.
Yes. It's true. It's true. So we know that these are how we show up, who we become is by the decisions we make,
Yeah.
right? And making those decisions is important, but also slowing down in a world that is
Yes.
taught to make decisions quickly, to respond quickly, to move quickly this is where the balance is,
Yes.
right? And it's not saying sit there forever and not make any decisions. It's a balance between the two. And that's what I want to model to my son. And that's how I want to show up as a human. And that I think is a never ending piece of work, at least for me, of
This
trying
is
to
a good
balance those.
takeaway. Yes. Yeah. That's really helpful. So the key takeaways, I think we just defined them, right? So it's the key takeaway is, your sense of urgency. You always have the potential to slow down. That's an urgency might just be created, right? Is that basically what you're saying? Like urgency is
A lot of the
self-inflicted or
times.
self-imposed,
Yes.
right? It
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily. And even if it's a contract or a house that you're like, oh, now they countered. Well, you stepped into that first offer. You knew that this might
Right.
be potentially coming back to you. Like that's all part of your responsibility.
Right.
So there's the slow down potential. Always the urgency doesn't have to. It's not necessarily real. Most of the time, it's not. I would say probably 98% of the time, it's not.
Yeah.
Most of us don't work in the ER,
Yeah,
it's just, most of
exactly.
the time it's not, we're not trauma surgeons, like that's not what we're dealing with most of the day. And then the concept of the decisions that you make are the way that you express your own uniqueness in the world. And it's almost your responsibility. I would say it is your responsibility to make decisions. No matter how big or how small, it's your decision. It's your responsibility to get out there and make decisions so that your preferences and your uniqueness is shown in the world. So, yeah,
Yes.
I'm gonna figure out what I'm gonna have for lunch. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna make decisions. Which, to your point, it's like both of us don't eat meat. I don't eat chicken and any of that stuff. And honestly, I'm like, in some ways, has that just made my decision funnel so much easier? Because I look at the menu and I'm like, what am I gonna have? Well, I'm either gonna have this fish or this vegetarian thing or this thing. Or if you're vegan, it's like I'm gonna have one. There's nothing even on. Is there a plant on the menu?
Yeah.
So you could do that too, right? You're gonna have
Right.
ways to make your life easier. You think it's gonna
True.
work, and you need help, making decisions, right? You could just
That's a
say
good
like,
point.
"Oh, I just don't do that,"
Yeah, that's not
and
me.
it's true with righteousness or whatever. Like, I just don't do X, so that decision's already made for me. And you probably could funnel a lot of your decision making and not have it be so out there. But that's also, again, just as the takeaway, that's being true to yourself. That's having some self, respect. That's having the boundaries for yourself. That's having all that stuff that makes these decisions already part of you, right? They're already part of you. So the go this way or that way is often made easier by being true to yourself or knowing who you are first and foremost. Yeah. So
No.
I love it. Okay, Rach. This has been, is, and forever will be the Grateful Not Greedy podcast. Please subscribe. Please send us a little note on Instagram at Be Grateful Not Greedy and engage with us. And we will see you next time. Aloha, Rach.
Aloha, Kris.